What's up, y'all? This is Not a Real Doc DPT. Thank you for joining the channel again. So today we're going to be talking about another video in the series on Behind the Doctorate. And in this series, I am talking more to student physical therapists, just trying to help them in their process of becoming future DPTs. And it's I really like trying to help students. I really enjoy when students come and do rotations with me, and when I've worked with them in the past. I still remember where I was when I was in their shoes, and so I like trying to help as much as I can. So that's the point of this series. So today we're going to be talking about what are now the challenges of um, becoming a DPT or becoming a successful DPT, I should say. Our last video, if you haven't already checked it out, the last one I did was on the 3 key traits to successfully become a DPT. And so this time I want to talk about some of the challenges that you're going to run into. So number one, I would say, is you're going to have areas that you are weaker in compared to others. So there's you are certainly graduating with the DPT. That means that you are the Doctor of Physical Therapy, and you are the expert in the field of physical therapy. However, there are going to be areas where you are much more comfortable working in. That's probably going to be related to the type of clinic that you go to. Like I'll mention for myself, when I first started out as a physical therapist, I worked in a clinic that was owned by an occupational therapist. So that OT, she pretty much took the necks and shoulder patients for to treat with OT, because that was her practice. But when you looked at issues of the hip and the knees and legs and lower body, that was not something that OTs are schooled in, and so those were pretty much all of my patients. So what wound up happening, especially as my career was just starting, was I got to be really confident and am really confident in working with issues related to the lower body. But then I feel weaker working with things like shoulders, and not so much necks, because I've seen so many of those and stuff too. But I'm always weaker in a shoulder or patient compared to a hip patient, for example. So you're going to have that can be a challenge. It's going to depend on, as I say, where you work and the types of patients that you're seeing, and so that's going to direct your caseload, or your caseload is going to direct kind of what your experience level is with differing conditions. So that's something to be aware of. And then the answer from the APTA would be, well, that's what our CEUs are for, and so that's what your continuing education is for. That's why you work for managers that have more experience than you. So now you can go to those managers and you can learn while you're practicing as well. Also, using your other PTs as a resource, that can also be really beneficial to help you to kind of transition through that, and try to get or try to help you get to where you are of a expert level of skill across the board in all areas. But you're still probably likely going to have one area or two areas that you may not be quite as skilled at as in other areas. So that's a little bit of a challenge. Second thing that I think can be a challenge, and it's not something that you really ever hear anybody talk about, and I don't know, maybe it was unique to me. I really have never discussed it with people myself very much, but it can be a challenge working with other physical therapists. And I'm not talking even about personalities or anything like that, or that, although that certainly can be part of the issue. But it's it can be hard working because, at least for myself, I would say I'm more of a competitive person at times, although I kind of go in and out on that. But you always are judging in the back of your mind, hey, I got this patient better. And wow, I'm not sure if that DPT could have gotten that person better. Or maybe it's the flip of that is, oh man, that DPT uh, that was able to get that patient better, and I'm not sure if I could have gotten that patient better. So there's this constant comparison game that you can fall into and get into when you're working with other physical therapists in a practice, and that's that's not good. Try to not do that. The best way around that is going to be just to have good open communication between you and the other PTs. You're going to want to talk things out, and if you're having issues like that, if you're having trouble, like, just with your own even confidence level, I mean, that certainly is a part of it. You can talk that out with other PTs and say, hey, what would you have done for this particular condition, and this is what I did, what would you have done? So those types of conversations can be beneficial. So that's kind of how you would combat that challenge. But for me, I think that challenge definitely did exist. It and to an extent it still does. I don't always love treating with other clinicians. It's a lot easier when you're in your own clinic and you're one on one with a patient. I feel very comfortable in that situation, and but don't always in where you have multitude. Now, again, that could also be my own personality type kind of coming in. Other people might have zero concerns about that, but I'll just say that is a challenge that can be there depending on who you are. But that's how you would get out of it as well, is because it can be also, at the same time as it can be a little bit of a challenge, it can be a benefit to working with other physical therapists, because you're going to learn from them, and that can be very beneficial and help you to get over that as a challenge. So, all right, the third thing that I wrote down and was thinking about is, and this kind of is the same thing as to what I was mentioning before, as far as how, judging yourself compared to other people as far as how they're progressing with patients. So it can be hard when you get into a situation where you find out that hey, a patient actually does want to work with another PT instead of you. And you are going to have that happen. I've had that happen where patients were that I had maybe wanted to go work with another PT. I've also been on the recipient end of that, where other patients were not wanting to return to previous PTs. They only wanted to work with me. So you're going to be on both sides of that more than likely, because you're going to be encountering all sorts of different people, and sometimes you and their personality may click. Sometimes you may do a manual therapy treatment that maybe another PT hasn't thought of before, and that is going to help to maybe push that their rehab kind of over the top, so to speak, and really make significant inroads for them. And so then they're going to want to come back to you because you did that with them. So it can be a challenge. m- it's not so much managing PT or managing patients that I'm talking about, but I guess essentially is what it is. But it's your own internal response to how those patients are feeling working with you. So that can be a little bit of a challenge, is sort of the makeup of that, and how that works. And it's important also, I mean, in a situation where a patient has asked to work with a different physical therapist other than you, it's important that you be self-aware. Are they right? Are you not delivering good care? Do you need to up your game in on the particular issue that they're are dealing with? So that is a something that you can learn with as well. So just because have switched to a different PT, it doesn't necessarily as I say, it could doesn't necessarily mean that it's something related to that. It could be communication styles, as I mentioned, but you do want to be self-aware in that, and recognize that, hey, maybe there's something that you need to learn, and the patient is helping you by saying, hey, I would prefer to work with another PT who does have that skill. So that's important to recognize as well. Another thing, and this is something I mentioned in, believe it was the first video in the Behind the Doctorate series, so you'll want to go back and look at that. But it is really important that you learn to work in uncertainty. But that is certainly one of the challenges with physical therapy. It is very difficult. Um, learning to be comfortable when you're not 100% certain that the treatment that you're going to deliver is going to result in, a beneficial outcome for the patient. You can think that it might, or you can say, hey, I've had other patients that this worked on, so I'm going to try this with this patient because it seems like they're presenting in such a way that this would be beneficial to them. But to have the confidence and the authority to be able to discuss that with the patient, deliver that to the patient without doing so in a way that makes the patient know that you are uncomfortable or that you are uncertain. Learning that communication skill, which I mentioned in the previous video, um, it's a challenge. It's hard. It takes a little bit of time to work through, but all of these things that I mentioned in this video, these are all challenges that you are capable of overcoming, whether it's working with the other PTs that are in your clinic, whether it's relying on your manager, whether it's relying on CEUs and your own education, um, and just developing your own confidence in uh, what it is that you're able to do as a physical therapist to help patients, because that is ultimately your job. Your job as a doctor of physical therapy is going to be to work through these challenges to help that patient the best way that you can, get them to get them and return them to their prior level of function or better, to help them achieve their goals. That's why they're coming to you, and that is your job. That is part of this job as a physical therapist, and it's these are all things that you will want to and need to focus on overcoming if you kind of experience any of those, as I have. And I would say I have come out the other side of that, and I do feel pretty comfortable within all of those situations now. But even I, though, even after having done this for 13 years now, I think it's 13, 12, 13, something like that, and treating thousands of patients in different situations and at different levels. I still run into the same thing at times. You still get that same patient where it's like, bah, what am I going to do? And stuff, but you just fall back on what you've been taught. You fall back on the science that you've learned, because you are a doctor of physical therapy. You do have knowledge. You do have a experience that you have gathered as you've gotten your doctorate, and that's that's what it is to practice. So I hope that this video has been beneficial to you a little bit. I hope it's helped that just to hear from somebody else that does have experience and that is doing this job, and hopefully you can relate and maybe help to get you over maybe any little issues that you may be dealing with in this field. So anyway, if you like this video, I do appreciate you listening to it. So we'd be happy to, or we would love if you would hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to us. We're a new channel, so we're trying to grow. So any help on that end would be very beneficial. So anyway, y'all have a good one, and we'll catch you in the next video. Later.